Hello friends, welcome to JavaScript learning series. In this video we are going to learn about JavaScript closure functions. So without wasting any time, let's get started. So let's take one example of closure function and then we will try to understand what is closure function and benefits of the closure functions. So here I am creating one function, create counter, and within this function we have one variable count. I am initializing value as a 0 for that particular count variable, and this function is going to return another function which will increase the count value and console that particular count value. So by definition, what is closure function? Basically, the closure function is the function that remember the variable and the parameter of the outer function that has already returned. So in this example, this is the example of closure function where the function which is our that create counter that remember the variables and whatever the argument, if we are passing here any argument, that remember that variables and parameters of outer function. Our outer function is the create counter, and so basically this particular function is going to remember this value. So let's create a variable which will store our inner function which will be written by our outer function create counter. Now let's call this and clear the console and run the output. So here we can see we have the output 1 because the counter value, initial value is 0, and now we have this particular function. First time it's going to increase the value of counter to 1 and it's console that particular value. Now if you call this function again 2 times, so in this case it gives the second time the value is 2. That means as the definition mentioned, the closure function still has access to the variable even though the outer functions has finished executing. Even on the first time the execution of this particular inner function is completed, still whatever the last value of the count that is being remembered by the outer that particular function. So next time when we call the counter, it's going to return the next value. So yep, that's the closure function. So basically in simple word we can say closure is a function that has access to variable in its outer scope even after that outer scope has finished executing. So which we can here see on the counter 1 we have the value 0 and it increased by 1, and we another counter call we got the value 2 which will be increased by 1 from the last previous value 1, so we remembered that last previous value. So yeah, I hope now the closure functions concept is clear. So now as we understood the concept of closure function, so what is the benefit of closure functions? In JavaScript, closure functions are used to create a private variables. Like here we can say this is the private variable for this particular counter which can be accessed only by this particular function and not outside of the scope. And they also allow you to create functions that remember certain values. As we can see here, it can remember the count even after execution of this particular function, or I can say execution of this particular outer function. So yeah, that's the benefit of using like closure functions. uh, I hope the closure functions concept is clear now. So see you guys on the next video with some other topics. Till then, happy programming.